We are lucky to have Bob Schieffer back with us this morning to discuss the campaign. Our longtime chief Washington correspondent and host of Face the Nation retired in June after 46 years with CBS News, and he has just signed on as an occasional CBS News contributor through next year's inauguration. Bob, good morning.
What happened to retirement?
Yeah.
Well,
you missed us?
I did. I mean, you know, old people always like to be asked their opinion. And, you know, when David Rhodes came and said, why don't you offer an occasional comment or analysis on the campaign? I mean, who could resist that?
Yeah.
And we're glad to have you.
Well, thank you. I'm really happy to be here. And I mean, you know, this is the single most unusual campaign that I've been covering campaigns for a long, long time. And I have to admit up front, I've never seen anything quite like this.
How do you explain how Donald Trump has dominated the conversation?
You know, I started out saying, well, he's a reality TV star. I've changed my definition. He is a master showman who has this impeccable timing and this ability to sort of control the conversation. You know, there's this Australian political consultant named Linton Crosby. He consulted on some of David Cameron's campaigns in London. He had what he called the dead cat theory. And what he said was, he said, look, it doesn't make any difference what people are talking about. If you throw a dead cat on the table, they're going to start talking about the dead cat. Yeah. And this is what Donald Trump has been able to do. The conversation goes off into some direction, and then he throws one of these things out on the table, and suddenly everybody is talking about that.
But suddenly, as even Rush Limbaugh said, it's starting to dawn on the elites, he says, that Donald Trump could win the presidency. He is way ahead in most of the primary states.
Well, you know, I have said from the very beginning that I took Donald Trump seriously, and I took him seriously because I know how angry people are. People are frustrated. I mean, the government does nothing. You know, the city Ronald Reagan called this the shining city on the hill has become the town where nothing works. And people are fed up with it. Yeah. I know where this frustration is coming from and how deep it runs.
Even the president spoke to that in his State of the Union, saying, I have failed. The regret that I couldn't change that.
And along comes Donald Trump, who says the things that a lot of people wish they had the nerve to say to their boss.
It's interesting that you took him seriously because so many people didn't. And the more outrageous things that he says, according to some people, the higher the numbers go. But you took him seriously from the beginning.
I did, but I'll tell you what I missed. From when he would say some of these things, I thought, well, that does it. Nobody's going to get by with that. Nobody's going to call John McCain a loser because he was captured, which made me think, well, if John McCain is a loser, what about the people who gave their lives? But somehow or another, he manages to say these things and then go on to other things.
Can we talk about Nikki Haley? Her speech after the State of the Union address.
I think the most important thing that's been said in this campaign, certainly this week, is what she said in that response. That was extraordinary. We've never heard somebody, I mean, yes, the president took a swipe at Donald Trump. That's kind of be expected. But then in the response, she comes up and comes down even harder on him. That's amazing.
To attack your own party in the response.
So Donald Trump is one big surprise. How about Bernie Sanders, and how about the Republican race, and how about the challenge he has mounted to Hillary Clinton, the Democratic race, in Iowa and in New Hampshire?
You know, this is unbelievable, really, when you come right down to it. Here you have the Democratic Party, the oldest party. It's been around for a long, long time, and yet it has managed to come up with one legitimate candidate. Hillary Clinton, like her, love her, she is a legitimate candidate. But there was no other Democratic candidate. I mean, where are these candidates now? And so along comes a guy who is a confessed socialist, says he's a socialist, says he is not a capitalist in a country built on free enterprise, and he's giving her this. That just shows you that this frustration people are feeling, it's being felt on the left as far as the right. And the president is right. Our Democratic Party has moved further to the left than it's ever been. And as we see this Republican Party, which may be tearing itself apart, whatever the case, it's further to the right than it's ever been.
Does that open the possibility of an independent?
Maybe. Maybe it also opens a possibility, and I said this to Nora last night, you know, we reporters, we have to be careful, not because we want so much for there to be a brokered convention for the first time in our lifetimes, because it would be so much fun.
Yeah.
It does, I think, especially on the Republican side, we may well go into that convention not knowing who their candidate is. What happens on the Democratic side, I guess Hillary Clinton's going to get the nomination, but I don't know.
You were coming back at a great time, and not everybody who leaves people do the hula when they come back. Most of the time they don't get to come back, but Bob, it was universal when we heard you were coming back.
Well, it's
applause
really
all
fun.
around.
Thank you so much.
So glad you were back at the table.
Thank you, guys.